Well, hello, and welcome to Opal City Confidential, a Starman podcast. And it is time for David to tell Jack, educate Jack, haunt Jack. But is this a Thanksgiving dinner one? Is this a Thanksgiving episode?
Hi, I'm David Steele. It's nice to
Oh,
be
I'm
back.
sorry, I forgot Dave. Dave's with sorry, folks. This is one long recording session. You know by now. We're now up to 30. We're up to issue 37, and we're going to
Ross
do.
and I have been talking. Ross and I have been talking all day. It was
all
daylight
day.
started. It's now dark where I am. As we get to this,
I'm going to brunch when we're done. That's what time of day it is here.
I'm going to buy razor blades anyway.
So
Dave, not for any bad reason.
So
right.
we get a talking with David, and I think this is my favorite. It is called Talking with David 97. Let's talk about the cover. There was a trend in the 90s. Marvel did their full head faces on covers. Theirs had a frame of a bunch of other faces, but DC did the same thing where you just had the main character staring out at you, except most of the time it was okay. This is a beautiful portrait of
I bought
David.
I bought the set of postcards.
There was a set of postcards with those?
Yeah, and the ones of Kyle Rayner and Wally West have been on the wall behind me. Don't know if you can see them.
Okay, I can.
They've been up there since I moved into my flat in 2000.
Oh, my God. But I would love to see in the compendium, the covers have no logo, no text. It's just the art.
Yeah.
Is it the same in the omnibus? I don't only have omnibus one.
And I'm just gonna do this for a laugh.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I'm looking at the app, and there's Jack with his goggles.
Where is the omnibus? I had it a second ago. Don't tell me I put it away. I was sure I still had it out. Have I put it away? No, I don't think so. I'm moving about, you see, so that I don't get cramp. Hang on. Let me come back to that. Oh, I found it right. It's behind me. Hang on. Ugh. Issue 37. There's the. It's just the cover art, no text on it at all.
Yeah, so I like that they do that in those. Yeah. This one goes straight into it. You go into the. I mean, let's do. I'm gonna pull. Oh God, that's such a good. Yeah. I love following Tony and on Facebook. It's the only Facebook group I belong to is his Starman one because. Someone recommended, I want to give him a shout out because at the end of this one, he's been very nice and made a nice comment about the podcast. His name is Tim, but he also recommended the Captain America Comic Book Fan podcast. And he recommended specific episodes. And I listened to the one where they interview Steve Englehart. And it was very neat to hear that Steve getting Cap and Defenders were his first big assignments. And right. I bought my first Cap. I bought Omnibus 3 because it's basically his run.
Sure.
And we're talking first issues. My first issue of Captain America I ever read is the one where Captain America of the 50s and the Captain America of the 50s and Bucky of the 50s are fighting Cap and Falcon on the beach in Miami.
Right.
That's the first Captain America comic I ever read.
First one I remember clearly, I think it's 249. So he's surrounded by a bunch of guys and is he on Coney Island or something like that? Is
that a Grunwald issue?
I don't know. Probably not. We're talking 79. I also had the issue with the Punisher on the cover when I was a little boy.
Yeah, that's Grunwald. Grunwald wrote it for like 10 years.
Right.
And Grunwald's is all the bad things about that late 80s done well.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. Yeah,
it's I really like that. I'm a big fan of Diamondback. But that's an era when I was reading it religiously.
Yeah. I think I've got Cap from issue 170 through to the end of that.
Wow.
I think.
See, I don't think of you as a Marvel guy at all.
Well, I've got my collection is. I've got a lot more Marvel stuff in collections than DC because I was a regular DC for a long time. But my formative period as a comic book geek was the mid 80s, and that I was like for 3-4 years I was like 95% Marvel, and that was all Secret Wars and Secret Wars 2 and stuff like that.
Yeah. Something that's I was working in comic shops, so there's some good stuff.
Back issues of Defenders, back issues of Marvel Premiere and 2 and 1 and Team Up.
That's great. They're going to do they're doing an omnibus of Marvel 2 and 1. But I've already got that stuff in Epics, and I'm just going to continue with the Epics
I've
because
got every issue individually.
yeah,
I
that was
love
the first thing I ever had a complete collection of as a kid.
yeah.
It was
The
great.
all the homage covers they did last month were brilliant.
Oh my God, yeah, they were. Yeah, they were.
I stuck them all on my Instagram, side by side, the originals. Anyway,
All right, well, let's. I love we talked. This is our fourth, I guess, talk with David. This is one of the best ones.
yes,
And I want to talk about the splash page comes second, and it's a double page spread. But I like this one. They're already in conversation in this one. They're just walking in a building, and Jack, as always, Jack is in black and white.
yep.
And one of them is in black and white, and one's in color. David is bringing them in, and it's just wonderful. This was cover dated December 1997. And we got the regular gang all back together. It's James, Tony, Wade Van Brawbadger, Gregory Wright, Bill Daly, Archie Goodwin editing it. And the title of this one is Meeting with David 97. And we have some guests because
around the table we see let's go just left to right in the splash. We have Zatara, we have Black Canary, we have Dr. Midnight with the Atom, we have Mr. Terrific, the Red Bee, and my guy, Rex Tyler, the Hour Man. Now, I must say, I read this a lot. 1997 was a funny year for me because I've been working in a bank for a couple of years and I had all this sort of corporate guilt when I came out of it. I was 24, and for the second half of 1997, I did voluntary work, an organisation. I'm not even sure if they're still active in Scotland anymore, but it was all building up to, it's called an outfit called CSV that around about Christmas raised money for a local charity in Glasgow called Cash for Kids. So this was my sort of karmic cleansing. After 2 years of sucking the corporate big one, I was doing voluntary work, and I was reading a lot of stories with these guys because the Michael Holt issue of Spectre came out around about May 1997, and that whole year was a big catch up for me the previous couple of years. So the JSA guys were like, they were consciously inspiring me on a daily basis at this point, and this issue was perfectly timed. I loved it.
I've always loved it, and I keep talking about in all my podcasts is art is observed, changes every time you observe it or read it or whatever. That this one was more a history lesson on these guys and of heroes and their fates and why they did things.
Yeah,
and I think because we're last thing we've seen in real time for Jack is Sadie telling him who she is and asking him to go find his brother.
Yeah.
So that whole annual we talked about in the last episode was heroes making choices.
Yes.
So this issue is about heroes who made choices and ultimately have paid the price for those choices.
Well, it's heroes explaining to Jack. It's sort of, they're also giving, if they could give him one piece of advice.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great way of simplifying it.
And we get a little insight into each of their motivations and their background and stuff. And to recap at this point, Mr. Terrific has been dead for about 15 years in real time. He was killed off in the JLA in 1979. Red Bee was killed off in All Star Squadron. I remember that the cover, this issue, an All Star dies.
And it's Red Bee.
Only seen in like
big switch,
as we would say in Scotland.
But it's given it's given him a new life in a lot of ways. He becomes the butt of jokes.
It's given him much more of a status than he would have had if he'd ever been alive. Because everyone remembers him being killed in that Baron Blitzkrieg story, and Our Man being so that he breaks the chains and stuff. Yeah. Our Man, Atom, and Dr. Midnight have all been dead for approximately 3 years at this point because they were killed off in 0 Hour.
Yeah.
Black Canary was kind of retconned in the early 80s that the Black Canary in the JLA was the daughter of the original. So there was a Secret Origins story, I think, which had her died of cancer. I think it was in issue 50 of Secret Origins. And for the life of me, I'm not sure when Zatara died.
He's in Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. He's one of the magicians around the table. Constantine gets him to connect. I guess it's early on. It's in the Crisis story. It's the Crisis story where all these magicians are in the swamp with Swamp Thing and Constantine, and Constantine tricks all these old characters. He needs them, and they all get burned up because he's John Constantine. He's a and that's why they kind of tie Constantine and Zatanna together. Because I read I read the Tom King Battle of the Century issue 1 on the app, Black Canary thing. It's and her mom's alive but has cancer.
Yeah, and I picked it up. So it's I've got the first 2 issues. I haven't read them properly yet. So, because I wasn't going to bother with it, but I flipped through it and saw that her mum was involved, and I thought, I'm going to read this.
I was going to jump in. I like Tom King. I mean, I like him when I like him, and I don't, Identity was not Identity Crisis. It's the whatever that awful one with
Target. Heroes in Crisis. He seems to special. And I sound very cynical here, but he seems to specialize in taking characters from the past, tilting them 30 degrees and killing someone off, so that it's enough of an Elseworlds that it doesn't really impact.
Yeah, most of his stuff is out of continuity. He talks about trauma. And because he's a war vet in a way, because he's a CIA. I mean, he's seen, he's got post-traumatic stress. He talks about very openly that if it wasn't for his wife and kids, he wouldn't be alive. I get that. I grew up. My dad was a Marine, and he had some trauma. I didn't know. When he got older, he would make a noise when he slept when he was very old, like in his late 80s and 90s. And I asked myself, Mom, what's that? And she goes, he's in Korea. And I went, all right, that's all I need to know. I will not ask him about what's going on because, I don't have any point of reference. He was very, my dad was a soldier. It was very point. If you asked him, he goes, anything I tell you is not going to do you any good. I did what I did. If you have to do what I did, you will do what you do. And I went, fair enough. Because you know, and so I get the trauma. But these guys have all, she died of cancer. Redby dies in Mr. Terrific is just murdered.
Yeah, I mean, it's they don't really dwell on any of that aspect of it. This is the first sort of acknowledgement that we might be in. This is the first time we've seen. Is it the first time? No, because we saw their mum. David is dead. We know this much. So it's interesting we see some other dead heroes. So it's given us more to sort of speculate on what's actually happening when Jack is meeting David once a year and where it is, and are they in the afterlife, are they in heaven, or is it some kind of purgatory thing? So it gives you a little bit more food for thought for all that sort of stuff. And they're all just sort of assembled because it's that, as we say, they're going to give Jack a bit of advice, and we get a bit of insight into each of them. And it's really interesting. This was like, I was lapping this up because by this point we'd kind of got used to James using the Justice Society well, and Sandman Mystery Theatre was still publishing at this point. We're about a year and a half away from Pete Tomasi bringing the JSA back properly. So, it was it wasn't quite the best of times, the worst of times, but it was better than it'd been. We're still about 10 years out from Our Man being rescued and brought back to life, for all the good that did.
yeah. And then they didn't know what to do with him and Rick. I think it was all up and down. And we had a new Our Man who I love. I love
Tyler. He's amazing.
It's a great character. And I do like that when we get their moments, we get to see Tony does this great, I'll go to the Atom. It's the first one you see, the Atom and the Japanese. And I think James understands the voice of all these people, as obscure as some of them are. Yeah. Redby, come on. If he did homework, he probably read 2 Redby comics. If he could find them.
He probably read reminded himself which issue of All-Star Squadron it was that he died. But the Atom makes the point about how, he was a little man who felt he had something to prove because he didn't have superpowers, but the rest of them sort of say, well, you were fighting alongside us. So what Al's sort of advice, the Atom's advice is to Jack is that he doesn't have to prove anything. It's almost the case that because he's doing the right thing, that's enough.
Yeah, I do like that because he says it in the panel. Anyway, Jack, what I have to say to you is play it cool. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. not to
Yeah.
Opal City, not to your father, certainly not to any of us departed. Remember that.
Yeah.
And
It's sort of throughout we get the Red Bee being sort of snarky about their sort of nobility and stuff, and there's a payoff for that. But the second one is Doctor Midnight, who talks about how he could have used his technology, the technology that helped him see. He didn't ever. He says how he didn't ever think about trying to do it to help anyone else, and they talk about how Ted has been using his technology, working on his technology in return for Jack being Starman. So this leads Doctor Midnight to make his point that he should respect his dad, you know, for doing what he's doing with his tech rather than still just being Starman. You know, that one's quite as weak, and David reiterates that cutting some slack.
well, I want to go back to when they're all saying hi to him. I was looking at the panel where Dr.
Sure.
Midnight, and he goes, "Hello, Jack," because we don't know this yet as readers, but Charles McNider and David Knight know something that Jack does not know.
This is very true. I
Because
wonder if
they
James
share a secret.
I wonder if James had that in mind at this point yet.
Who I think David was always supposed to be the Starman of the 50s. I think it's
Spoilers.
Well, we spoiled it in like one of my early episodes. Because we covered that, and I realized we should have waited because that's coming back up again real soon.
Yeah.
But he knows that he knows a secret, and I think he knows it here.
Yeah. Yeah, that I think that's fair. I mean, because you know, Chuck made use of Ted's technology, I suppose, as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and they're fleshing out what they did, because because Dr. Midnight was a big part of All-Star Squadron in the first couple of years. He was an everyday member.
Yes. That's right, yeah.
He was one of the ones that Roy picked to be in every issue.
Yeah, because I don't think I think he's in the next JLA JSA crossover because Kenny recorded his lines this morning. But he doesn't pop up too often during the 70s. He's one of I think he's someone else like Starman. Am I talking nonsense? I think he's in the 70s All-Star more than some people.
Yeah, he is. Because Ted's not in a lot. Ted's only in a couple.
Yeah.
But Charles is in a bunch. He's a Batman allegory. Because they don't use Batman.
Yeah.
He kind of subs in like, where they match him up.
Yeah. I think once they bring the Huntress and Sylvester into it properly, like
they disappear. You don't need him.
So it was good of Roy to use him actually, because he hadn't really been that visible for a while, and I like him in the All-Star Squadron.
I do too. I mean, I think we were talking earlier about that up through basically through when the Earth X storyline, the book was rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
And then it's sometime after there, kind of, crisis happens and Roy makes choices that he's going to make. And I bitched about him enough. I'm not going to bitch about him anymore. But I like these conversations where they're talking again, Red Bee's being snarky. Everybody's kind of, I do like it. Red Bee goes, no, the food is good. I bet there's good dessert and coffee, but maybe port wine or brandy. I'm not budging. And then Our Man goes, then shut up.
So I'm not really sure what the point Zatara is sort of making to him or advice. Let's see if we can pull that out.
I don't either. I mean, because he gets a little bit more space time in the conversation.
That's what it is. He's saying here that he didn't have too much. That's what it is. He didn't have very long with Zatanna before he died. So he's telling Jack to rejoice in the time lived. And yeah.
Yeah. I do like
he spends time with his dad and with his family and stuff.
Yeah, because he knows his daughter is a hero and a better hero than he was. I do like that because they had these top-hatted guys, villains, Midnight and other of these in the 40s. Tony's take of showing Zatara, because I don't think I've ever read but maybe one Zatara comic.
God, I don't know either. Maybe one or two at the most.
Yeah, at the most. But him pistol whipping some dude in a fez, and they're they're playing cards in a bunny, and ropes coming up to catch bad guys. Because they use him a lot in Young Justice, the cartoon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he becomes Fate.
Right.
He
I've
becomes
never,
one of the Fates. Yeah, he's alive and around in that. That is a very complex cartoon.
I've never
Uh,
seen it.
it's good. It's good, but it's a serialized. It is heavily. It's like reading a comic. It's very
Right.
heavily serialized, and
I
they
see.
every season they jump an age. It's entertaining,
Okay.
but it's an investment.
I think Logan's talked about it. I'm sure he's told me about it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it's Black Canary's turn, and this is significant because this comic just came out a couple of weeks after the annual issue 2, which we did last week, or a fortnight ago in the last episode, last time I was here. So it's interesting that this is kind of David isn't aware of it.
No, yeah, I forgot about that when I was reading it. It's like, oh shit, that sounds like a family Thanksgiving. Secrets being spilled. You got the
um,
drunk Uncle Red B. Um,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, David is freaked a little bit, but I don't think he's mad freaked. I just think he's freaked.
yeah. So I
Uh,
suppose what's Canary's point in this then is just is it teamwork or something, or she doesn't really seem to have any advice, but she does. That's it. Don't let the heat of battle cause you to make mistakes. Don't rush into passion and peril like Ted and I did without a clear head. So I suppose she's telling Jack to keep a clear head. But look at the sidebar on page 14. Doesn't Canary look gorgeous as Brenda Batoni Harris right there?
oh God, and Ted flying above her. Yeah, and I really do like what she says because and again, this all really plays into Sadie admitting who she was and love and
Yeah,
being in love with Jack because it's all about her being in love with him.
yeah,
And and in case you're worried, the reason our fling didn't go further was because both of us genuinely loved our spouses. You
yeah,
hear me, boys? Ted loved your mother deeply.
yeah,
Still, Ted and I sure made a great team. And I think she means a superhero team. They are a great superhero
yes,
team.
yeah. I think
It's that
so.
weird team up that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Um, and then we get here, your boy. I'll let you go because this is your guy.
Yeah. Well, see, this is it. I mean, I've waxed lyrical about Rex elsewhere, and I will wax lyrical about him again. I'm sure. Like Rex was killed off in Zero Hour in 1994, but then had a bit of a renaissance through the 90s because he was a regular. He turned up regularly in Starman. He got an arc in Sandman Mystery Theatre. He was a guest star in the Triumph miniseries. If you remember Triumph, he was the character that was retconned in at the JLA.
I didn't
Um,
know. I haven't read that. I'll have to go find that
yeah,
and read it.
and he was the cover star of the JLA 80-page giant. He narrated the JSA Returns event, which happened in 1999 and got an issue which he co-starred with Dr. Midnight. And then there was an Our Man series that ran for a couple of years that he was heavily featured in before he was ultimately sort of rescued in, I think, tail end of 2004, might have been 2005. And I think it was 2004, in a couple of pages of JSA that referred back to Zero Hour, which I'm still waiting for the Fire and Water podcast, Zero Hour podcast, to do those 2 issues. They haven't done them. They did the special recently, but they still haven't done those 2 issues. So I'm still waiting for it, guys, if you're listening. And Rex talks about his addiction, and it wasn't just the miracle. It was that he was addicted to the lifestyle. He loved
Yeah.
being a superhero. And his advice to Jack is to kind of try and control the pull. Don't let it drag you in too much. Um, and it's great because we see Rex talking about how when the other heroes came along, he kept going, and he's drawn. I think a lot of these pages were drawn from life. I think Tony had models for some of these
I think
people.
I do too.
Sure,
And I like he's fighting the
the thing
Silver
looks like,
Age stinker.
yeah. So I mean, I like how on page 15 we see that Rex really has a gleam in his eye, and he's just sort of saying to Jack, where is it? Beware its pull. It's Zatara who says that. But Rex is sort of saying, "I'm happy if he does something else in his life as long as he understands." Or are they talking about Rick? No. It is Rex, but it's been mislettered. I realized this when I read it earlier on. The speech bubble looks like it's coming from Zatara, but it's supposed to come from Rex. He just wants him to, the addiction, the temptation, the buzz of it all of a sudden you have to live with, and you have to keep a control of that. So it'll be interesting to see how much, as we keep going with the series, how much of this really ties in or reflects on anything. But as you say, brilliant, beautiful colour image of Rex. It just looks like he's pinging the thinker in the face. It's quite
Yeah.
amusing. And then after that, it's my other member of JSA inspiration guy, Mr. Terrific.
Yeah,
And this was really interesting because he's another character who much more was done with him in the 90s and beyond, I think, than was ever done with him before.
he appeared in two JSA team ups. In the second one, he died.
Yeah, well, he's in 37, 38, and then he's in the one in the mid-50s, and then you don't see him until issue 170, is it 170, 171?
Yeah, something like that. And he has a very brief cameo. He's just hanging out in the cave in the 100, the big one.
That's right. You see him with he's with Robin and Green Lantern. And,
yeah, they come in late.
And they do they have a few scenes, that's right, I forgot about that. But no, he was basically forgotten until John Ostrander did issue 54 of The Spectre that also came out in 97, which introduced the Michael Holt version, and that kind of
he's become a huge hero.
Yeah, because
we're going to have his third film version.
Yeah, he's going to be in because he featured in the Justice League Unlimited cartoon. He was in the Arrowverse.
Yeah.
And then he's going to be in the new Superman movie. The Michael Holt version is. So it's really, really interesting. I'm gratified because, as I think I said, it was about a year and a half after the Michael Holt first appearance that I got Fair Play tattooed on my right shoulder.
So he does appear in A Brave and the Bold, the one 20.
Really?
Yeah, he's in the one with Starman. He's one of the people. If you haven't watched it, folks, it's hysterical. If you're an American, you'll understand that Ted Knight, Starman, is voiced to sound like the actor Ted Knight from Caddyshack and Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
And when they get there, they go, "Oh, we came too soon," and they look at, and Dr. Midnight goes, "I must have read the invitation wrong." So the blonde guy says, "I must have read the invitation." But so, Terry's in the background.
Yeah, Mr. Terrific's here, and he talks about they talk about fair play, which, I mean, I think about it now, and it was very naive. It's a very quixotic response to those words, to be 24 years old and having guilt and wanting to kind of, do 6 months of voluntary work as penance. I think, yeah, go for it, mate. Fine, I probably still would now. But it's words. It absolutely is words to live by, and Terry sort of talks about how, as Terry Sloan, he was this genius. He was an Olympic athlete. He could turn his hand to anything. So he thought, right, I'm going to turn to being a superhero as well. And he admits that he wasn't really top tier. But so what his words to Jack is basically about vanity. Terry says that it was his vanity because he was so good at everything that he thought he'd be really good as a superhero. So his words to Jack are, don't let vanity sort of blind you. But then Jack sort of counters that by sort of saying, because they talk about how fair play on his chest and how that's why everyone remembers him, because he's the fair play guy. They don't know much else, but he's the guy with fair play on his chest. And Jack sort of says, those words are only daft or silly if you don't believe them. And there's a beautiful shot of Terry sort of standing, and he says, "Oh, I believe them. I still do. I'll believe those words forever," which is glorious. And then that, obviously, when Mr. Terrific was used in the JSA Returns event, that was a big part of it because, he is so... Mark Waid writes a really good story where Mr. Terrific is because the story is narrated by Jay Garrick, but he talks about how Mr. Terrific can see sees everything in black and white. It's either fair or it's not. And they're in Dresden, which is being bombed, and Terry thinks of
oh my god, yeah, oh my god, yeah. In the because that's in the compendium. Oh my god, and I just read it, and I forgot how powerful that was.
Yeah. Terry thinks they're there to find the munitions factories in Dresden, but then the American Commando tells them there aren't any munitions factories, they're just bombing civilians. And this blows Terry's mind because it's not fair. And the story finishes with Terry's torn the fair play emblem off his jacket, and he wants to give up, and Jay sort of says to him, "Look, you can either give up or you can keep wearing those words and set that example and be an inspiration to everyone." And as a mid-20s guy who had no idea what the fuck he was going to do with his life, that meant so much to me. And that was around about the time I got the Fair Play tattoo. And as maybe not deciding, and I hope I don't sound sanctimonious here, but maybe not deciding, if I wasn't going to decide what I was going to do in my life, at least I was trying to really commit to the sort of person I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Whether or not I've done that, I don't know. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't.
No, I know. I got what you say. I was, there's this thing about, I was very, in my 20s and late teens, 20s up to about 30, and even maybe a little past, I was a little reckless, and I was all about fun and just me, and and then my best friend Vic does the right thing a lot, and it's a good
Sure.
thing. And then my father was like that. He always did the
Yeah.
right thing. It was thing.
Yeah.
And he taught me this thing is like the strive to be, because I asked him, it's like you just be the best person you can be every day,
Absolutely.
one day at a time.
Yeah.
Because that's how you be a good person. It's not create all these rules and stuff. Just treat everybody the way you want to be treated, and treat them with the courtesy and respect. And he said, it's hard.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of I'm a big Michael Holt fan, and I love Fair Play. I'm wearing a Fair Play t-shirt and hat while we record this.
Yeah. Like, it's one of these things, and I don't want to sound like we're lecturing or preaching, but it was something that I really, really took to heart. And I ended up working in the HMV, which is a chain of record shops, for the next 20 years. And you'd be surprised at how much on a daily basis deciding to be a good guy can help.
It does. I think
even if it's just like holding doors or having the right change, or someone's looking for helping someone find something. It really shows that, I mean, a person's your individual attitude about how you're going to be with other people can make a pile of difference in a sort of type way, And everybody knew that I was the guy with Fair Play tattooed on his shoulder, and I've got a few other DC guy symbols tattooed since. And it was sort of like, there was worse things to sort of be thought of or remembered for, but it was really, I never had a plan. I'm 52 nearly, and I've never had a plan, but I've been very lucky, and I've had a lot of jobs that I've enjoyed. But at the same time, I've realised that I can't be a superhero. I can't put on a costume and go out and fight crime. But by having a positive attitude, and there's a line that I can't remember what story it's in. There's one story that he's in with a modern story of Mr. Terrific, because he used them in JSA a few times as well, and he said something like, if you can imagine it, you can achieve it. And the word impossible is not in my vocabulary. And those are other words of his that I took to heart, and I still use on a daily basis. If we come up against something a bit tricky in an event situation, and I can sort of go, right, if we can imagine it, we can achieve it. Let's be, it's all about the power of positive thinking.
Yeah.
And I think I'm really pleased that the Michael version of him is going to be in the movie, the Superman movie.
I'm a big fan of the actor who's playing him. He's in not from Earth to the Moon, For All Mankind, as the Elon Musk kind of character when they get into later because an alternate history space travel. But he's a very good actor. I like the guy that played him in Flash. I liked him a great deal. He was a younger Michael Holt.
Yeah,
an optimistic, and I liked him. And
I'm thinking that he wasn't even Michael. Was he Curtis Holt or something? They changed a few details, something like that.
They did. Yeah, I'm not sure. I
haven't seen. There's an awful lot of the Arrowverse stuff I haven't seen.
Flash went on to I liked him until I didn't. Sometimes shows go too long.
Yeah.
But let's get to Red Bee, because we joking, but he has the meltdown of the hero that he didn't feel he was respected, and he's got some good points. And David's like, hey, David's confused because David's hanging out with these guys, it seems, because he says something about it. He's got food. He's got food on himself from slamming the table. He's bitching and moaning about fair play. David doesn't really get what's going on. But he has this, where is this? It's this one speech.
He talks about once being the JSA, but
that's it. That's the one. Nobody asked me. I'm a freedom fighter, or the 8th, 9th, 10th soldier of victory. Yeah. Nobody asked me. I was a joke. I didn't see it at the time, but now I do. And I kind of like. I like that he's not a put. James doesn't make him a putz or just a cartoon. There's a reason he feels this. He died young.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
He died young. And I like that he does the toast at the end. When it's all
Chuck,
ending.
Yeah. Chuck makes him feel better though by saying, like, we weren't laughing at you or one of us, we were brothers. Chuck sort of says to him, it's like, it's kind of riffing on what they say in the early issues of the Sandman, with when death first appears. It's like, you got what everyone got. You get a lifetime, and your lifetime is as long as it is. And he went out there and he was a hero. He tried to be a superhero, and he should give him. Chuck's basically saying you should give yourself the credit for doing that.
Yeah, I like it. And then he gets these great things at the end where he goes, Ted says it, and then the bee goes, yeah, I guess the one time me and Jack's dad teamed up, he had a rod drawing power from the stars, and I had 2 trained bees, and he still treated me like an equal. I'll never forget that. A toast to Jack Knight. Maybe he be the son of his father, and by fighting the fight, by living with the life, may he honor us all. And then that's your guy finishing it.
Yeah. And that final page of them all sat there in colour is gorgeous. And I actually see it.
Yeah.
On the letters page, there is a list of who the life models were.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a little word from Tony that says, "This is a special thanks to all of my models for this issue. Your patience and wit were much appreciated. It was truly a magical evening, Tony." So Zatara was Craig Hamilton. Wow.
Okay.
Black Canary was Stacey Harris. Dr. Midnight was Richard Dunn. The Atom was Hank Perry. David Knight was John Calvin Smith. Mr. Terrific was Jody Haynes. Red Bee, he must be a nickname, someone called Monkey. Our Man was Mark Schroeder. And, of course, Jack Knight was Tony himself. And
well,
he says...
So Canary's his wife, son. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Thanks to Chris Andrews for being Batman in the Grundy story. So that's interesting.
I love it.
I suppose it's an issue of making Jack aware that the other JSA legacy folk that have gone before him are kind of they just want to encourage him and motivate him to keep going, and that by doing what he's doing, he's keeping their spirit alive, I suppose.
And Jack's going to make a decision about Sadie's reveal that she's Will's sister, and the request for him to go find your brother, who she believes alive. That this is the first thing of him kind of thinking, because they're talking about it. Why? Because remember, it's Jack. I said this in the earlier episode. It starts as doesn't want to be a hero, becomes a hero, accepts being a hero, and then is sent on the hero's quest. And then at the end has to make the hero's choice. Do I stay a hero or do I not? Yeah. And this is just a little bit. And then we've got it's kind of, we talked about it in the last episode. It's kind of patchy what happens coming up. It's more, it's a couple times past. There's some one and dones. There's 2 issues about the mist, which are important, but very separate. Yeah. Then he goes off into, he talks about going, he makes a decision to go into space, and then there's a couple more issues, and then he goes into space. And then we have the last 2 great arcs. Yeah. Space and the Grand Guganol. Yeah. And everything's getting set up. I love it. I really do think this is my favorite times past. Talking with David. Talking with David. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. And it's a big part of that, obviously, is because the other JSA guys are involved. There's no 2 ways about it. It's, I read this a million times when it came out. I remember photocopying the page of Mr. Terrific standing onto yellow paper and pinning it up in my little part of the office. Inspiration and all that. Yeah, it's really special. And as I said, it's like, it's one of these ways the JSA characters were, when they were treated well by a writer who appreciated them and understood them, then you could still tell really good stories with them.
Yeah, you could. I really like that. It was a good group of them. Yeah. Because I wouldn't have expected Zatara, Red Bee. Because Jack wouldn't have, or would Jack have known Mr. Terrific?
No, probably not. No, unless he met
probably not. Because his dad, he's
a boy.
Him and Wildcat appear in him because Starman has left the book. Yeah. Who is it? Starman and someone else have left the book.
Yeah. Starman goes, and who else? Spectre, I think. Or Dr. Maybe
Dr. Fate. No, I think it's Dr. Fate, because Charles is Midnight never leaves.
Yeah, Chuck's there till the end, and the
so's Adam. Yeah, them and Hawkman. They're the only 3 that make it all the way through, because Flash and Green Lantern leave and come back.
Yeah.
And
Then,
once Wonder Woman's in, she's always there. And once Black Canary's in, she's always there.
yeah.
But yeah, this is a good one. And this is a good because next up is the Mist kills this rando version of the Justice League Europe.
Yeah.
Which I never really understood.
I think it's just the Mist sort of flexing their muscles, isn't it?
Yeah, and what's weird is I've just read Day of Judgment, and they brought Blue Devil back, and he dies again. So, well, hey, David.
Yeah, I remember. I won't be here to say it, but I remember people being very critical of this issue and the way Blue Devil was written and all this sort of stuff.
I've always had a little like, James, I understand what you're doing, but I don't think editorial really gave a shit what he did.
Yeah,
because they don't pay attention to it and they bring everybody back.
Yeah,
and I don't like. And my big pet peeve was, you're going to put Amazing Man in a story and then kill him.
Yeah.
And I liked when Johns created a descendant and he wore the Tashiki and the.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that was it.
My dog and all that. Yeah, I remember that in the 2007 series. Yeah.
All right. So, guys, we're going to wrap this up. I've got someone waiting to take me to brunch. We've recorded 3 of these over the last 3 hours or so, and it's been a blast.
A little bit long. I think a little bit longer than that. It's probably,
I think it's been a big chunk of your day, and I appreciate it, David. It was a blast. We probably talked as much off episode than we did on as we do.
Long overdue.
But we've been holding back recommendations. I'm just going to be really simple with my recommendation. If you have not thought about it or gotten the JSA Compendium Volume 1, do it. It's the best mapping of any reprint I have ever frickin' seen. Because so much more extra. And it just, as Kirby said, it expands. It makes you feel like Jack was a member of the Justice Society for years.
Yeah.
Because there's 4 more adventures.
Yeah. I would highlight the new Justice League Unlimited series and the new Challengers of the Unknown series.
Oh my god! Bravo! That one, Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, the cover image of them wearing the Challenger style uniforms is amazing.
I got that. That's the cardstock cover I got.
Yeah, and I want to quickly sort of it's gone right in my head. Yeah, I remember. Marvel are doing some really fun stuff just now, where they're doing a lot of themed homage covers. We just did a bunch of
Marvel 2-in-1 ones.
Marvel 2-in-1s, which I posted all on my Instagram, _Davad, DAVAD. And they're doing some Fantastic Four ones this month. I'm only going to get a few of them. And they're doing some Captain America ones next week. And that's just fun. I love a homage cover. I loved a homage cover ever since there was an issue of West Coast Avengers that riffed on Fantastic Four #1. And then very soon after, there was another issue of West Coast Avengers that riffed on X-Men #101 with Phoenix busting out the water. So I love a homage cover.
I do too. David showed me something to where I just come in. Kirby covered the death of Invisible Kid and showed me the Neil Adams X-Men where the living monolith is crushing Warren. So I'm going to probably post that at some point because it's just too good. All right, folks. As always, thank you for listening, David. Thank you for coming on. We've got more. We've got so much more. Dave's going to be a real regular on the show for the next few months because we've got a Captain Marvel crossover. We've got like 2 more times pass.
Yeah.
And some stuff. It's a lot of fun stuff. Also, hey, we're going to, by the time you hear this, a second Zoo Crew review by Kirby. He's going to record a few to allow me to take, not feel bad when I can't get something out. So I'll always have something for the weekend. I appreciate it, which is allowing me to focus on Starman. I've not been spotty. One reason I did the 3 of these together because just to save David and me time and have a good time. But it was also to get them so I can get them done. Work's crazy tonight. We're supposed to get snow, and I may be sleeping in my office for a couple of days if it gets bad. So hopefully not. But I can get ahead and I can get started back. Future things coming in Opal City is I'm trying to figure out what the next Opal City media will be. I will be getting back to Will Payton, and I'm going to cover Dr. Starr from the Black Hammer universe. Yes, Dr. Starr, because I have it before the legal made them change it to Dr. Andromeda.
Hang on a sec. Hang on. I saw that you'd posted them the other day, so hang on. I have the floppies to hand. I will give them another read in sympathy.
You have the Dr. Star ones. Good. Yay. I'm glad you've got the original. Because when I got him to sign it, I said, I assume something happened. And he went, yes, something happened. And he puts Dr. Star Forever or something like that inside my yeah. He's a very nice man. He's a very nice man. And I'm a huge Black Hammer fan. So, all right, folks. Thank you, David. Have a good night. I'm going to go. It's just the middle of the day. And everybody, be safe, be kind. Please be kind to one another and read some comics. Find a Red Bee comic.